invited to come to be here, and I prepared some thoughts I had at that time. But I want to speak to the parish about its profile and its survivability in the coming years. Well, weather intervened and I couldn't come. But I decided that I still wanted to share my thoughts and concerns about the future of our little Episcopal church. St. Philip, certainly, but all of us within the faith. Now, it wasn't long ago, certainly in terms of even my memory, I'm now going to turn 86 soon, but I can go back in time, and I remember when there would be like 90% of the U.S. population would identify themselves as being Christian. In 1960, when I was in seminary, the Episcopal Church had 4 million members. Today, the church has hardly 2 million. So since the 60s to now, 50, 60 years, the population of the Episcopal Church has been cut in half. And there are several factors as to why this has happened. One, the Episcopal Church is not unique. It's happening across all different Christian denominations here in the States. The number of people in 2020 were identified as being about 64% of the population. Now, that was a drop from the 90% I told you about a moment ago. So over that time, from 72 or 62 when I was there to 2020, it's dropped from 90% to 64%. And guess what? It's not stopped declining. And it's declining for several reasons, but certainly one of them is we're getting older. And I do look around and I see some very attractive young people. But I don't see the youngsters. I don't see people under 30. Now that's important for two reasons, because if we don't replenish our membership, we will simply fade away. Because even of those who are Christians, identify themselves as Christian, who are under 30, 1/3 of them leave the church, whatever denomination it might be, by the time they are 30. So even if we had young people, we would know that we would be losing many members to that now growing group called None. You got it. Nuns. None. Now that's made up of atheists and agnostics and questioning others as to, well, I don't know anything about anything anyway, so I just won't put my stock into theological kinds of ideas. That trend is continuing. So those who've been Christian and are switching out, those who are Christian and active in the church who are getting older and not being replenished means what? We will diminish and eventually fade away. Now, I share this information with you because maybe you didn't know, but maybe you do know. And I do know you're also involved in making decisions about your parish profile, and you want to call a new priest to be here with you. But if you hold the idea of a full-time priest as it was in 1960, well-educated seminary graduates coming and being here full-time to nurture you, to care for you, to teach you, to educate you, to celebrate the sacraments with you, you are doomed to failure. It's not likely to happen. The parish of which I'm a member of, down the road, the Holy Trinity in Manistee, just barely escaped the bullet. When we had Mother Jody and Father Christian there, they were using up the wealth of the church at a rate that within 5 years there would be no more endowment left. The plate collection, the pledges that were offered, whether it came through plates or mailed in or electronically, however, does not carry the weight of a full-time clergy. And yet that vestry made the decision, that vestry. That wasn't me. One time they asked me, could I join the vestry? I said, well, sure I can. And then apparently they did some more searching and they found out, no, priests can't be members of vestries because they belong to the diocese. They don't belong to a parish. Oh, that's the first time I heard that. But anyways, that canceled my nomination. I don't know whether anyone would vote for me anyway, but anyway, I couldn't be on the vestry. So that vestry made that decision to pay out of their endowment for the ongoing living and support of a clergy. We're now in the thralls of deciding, in that parish, and this parish also, how to call a new clergy. And there's a wonderful little book. I have a copy of it right here. I was going to read from it, and I said, no, I just want to speak to you contemporaneously rather than reading from a little book. That part-time is plenty. Now, part-time is plenty is predicated on two important principles. One, you have to find the right person who, as a priest, who understands part-time. Now, for me, it was easy because I've always been a bivocational. I've been ordained as a priest, I functioned as a priest, and also as a psychologist. So I got a PhD in psychology at the university. I had a full-time job, and my research took up a lot of my time, but also I could work in different parishes that would call me to be with them on a part-time basis. That's an option to look for in terms of the kind of priest you want to have that's here, male or female, young or older, someone who is bivocational, that can support themselves mostly, and not rely on you all. That's one. That's A. That's one pillar. Guess what? That's one pillar. The other pillar is the congregation has to understand the vitality that it can have from its own members. Many of the duties you would think fall traditionally to the priest can now be held by everybody else in the parish. You can make up that deficit that you might see as there by being part-time. You, as a congregation, can fill in those roles. You can represent St. Philip's in the community, which is one of the roles you think a clergy might do. You become part of the different clubs and introduce yourselves. And I'm the rector of St. Philip's. Now, the senior warden can do that job, or the junior warden, when he's done taking care of the buildings, can go out and advocate for the church. There are various special ministries, and this parish has got a marvelous job with the baby pantry. But if you were to have a part-time priest, maybe half-time, half of what is called for, and you have a contract with that priest so you're not locked into the canonical requirements that once you have a priest as your rector, God, awful has to happen before you can ever get rid of him. So there's this whole new thing of creating contracts, time limited. And so when you are now making decisions in the near future, whether it's for an interim for a while, or whether you think maybe you can hire a priest, be very, very, very careful. Because as I look around the room here, 10 years from now, many of you won't be here. Me too. I won't be here 10 years from now. The chance that I'm 86 now and I'm 96, well, even if I was alive, I probably wouldn't be here. I'm afraid when I look around, that's likely to be the case here. And that means you don't have many people that are paying in. And if you choose to use up your endowment, which presumably you have, I have no idea what it is, but presumably it's significant, it can be used up quickly. And then you'll not only have no people, and you won't have any church, you'll have no money. my message I thought I would say 2 weeks ago when the storm prevented me from coming. But I decided rather than talk about the crucifixion and Jesus the King, I would tell you something which is really close to me. That would require this vestry, current vestry, or new members you get in the vestry, to buy the little book called Part-Time is Plenty. And study it, and think about how you can then lead this parish to be a vital, energetic, forward-looking, financially stable congregation. It's a good little book. And thank goodness, Father Christian and Mother Jody decided to take another job, because Trinity and Manistee would have literally died and continued to support them. Don't put yourselves in that same dilemma. Now, I don't know one more last thought. I don't know the particulars of your endowment. But the parish that my family was very much involved with, St. James Birmingham, and also Good Shepherd in Dunedin, Florida, where my dad was very much involved in vestry and also in endowment chairmanship. All the money endowment was used for service. All by law, all by the contract. None of it was to be used for support. I don't know whether support, that is ongoing pay for clergy. Could do some things with it. But anyway, couldn't pay for clergy. And I don't know whether your endowments are that way. But if they're not, maybe you ought to correct that deficit and write it into your constitution. We don't use our endowment. Use that money for building a better whatever it might be in Beulah. Use it for representing Christ's love in the community. Use it for feeding people and support the baby pantry. All right.
Amen.